Hey folks, we have a topic for you today that might ruffle some feathers. So buckle up and hang on. If you like the content, please like, share, all that kind of good stuff. Send it to somebody that you know would help. But let's get started with today's topic. Today's topic is, why do your students suck? Ooh, well, my students don't suck. You go to any school, 20% is going to be phenomenal. 20%, you're kind of embarrassed about it maybe. Everybody else is in the middle. Now, if your school where everybody else is in the middle, that percentage is big on the lower end, then we got some work to do. And why is that? Some instructors don't care. You know, they just move them up, wrap black belts on them. You know, they can't even tie their own black belt. They don't care. But if you want to have integrity and a good name, you want to have a certain standard. And you got to decide what that standard is. And whatever that standard is, then you got to start with the end in mind. And let me give you some pointers how to set that up. You want to be thinking of what your black belt class, what you want them to look like, what you want them to do. And then what does the advanced class look like? And then what is the intermediate and then beginners? And I've had a video on the beginners, the perfect yellow belt. Beginners are not supposed to be good, okay? Those intermediates, the screws should be getting a little tighter. In advance, a little tighter. And then of course, your black belts need to be the flagship students of the school, all right? And that doesn't necessarily mean they need to be world champion, athletic, whatevers, right? I mean, I had one school, I had 60 active black belts. A lot of them were adults. A lot of them, you can call them my geriatric group. You know, they're 50s and 60s. I had a couple in their 70s. All right, could still move, could still do the moves, but they couldn't do them like an 18-year-old. So you got to take that into account. It's not what I'm talking about, which I think you know. But let's talk about some principles. Number one, you have to create the culture in your school that you are in charge. There is an expectation. The expectation needs to be either in video, written out. I mean, they need to know what that bar is that they're trying to reach, okay? So if they're doing a technique, for example, a forward stance, I mean, the knees bent, it's over the foot, you know, the shin bone's 90 degrees, maybe hand position 4 to 6 inches above the knee, elbow slightly bent. I mean, at some point, hopefully by a black belt, they know that stuff, right? Front kick, 4 parts of the front kick, knee up, out, back, down. All right, they need to know that. All right, that's simplistic. But what about getting on the mat? Now, I just had a video, you know, where most instructors miss that, and that's how your students start not looking good, start sucking. There needs to be a process in the beginner class where there is a certain expectation. If they have a patch on the uniform, they need to earn the patch. What do they have to do to earn it? They have to ask permission to come on the mat. They have to have their belt tied right before they can come on the mat, or an instructor will help them tie their belt. We have these certain rules. So there's a certain expectation. That's culture. So then we're talking in class and we say the reverse punch, that hand needs to be turned over the last 3 inches. We're hitting with the first 2 knuckles. Okay, I need to do that. All right, that's expected. We're just not flinging it out somewhere. So as instructors, when we're talking about techniques, we need to make sure that, you know, we're not killing them with detail, understand, but we are setting the expectations. As the students move up in the rank, things need to be a little stricter as far as curriculum requirements. If it is a performance-based test, then they need to be able to perform it. Where are the kiosks at in the forms? Where, you know, when I turn, is my stance correct? And you hold them to those standards. Now, what if they're going from an intermediate class to an advanced class and they just don't quite have it yet? What do? Well, that's a judgment call for the instructor. You don't just you have a process where they can fix what they need to fix. And that's where a striping system comes in or something like that. You hold back the stripes so they can fix the little things so that when they belt test or perform, they can, you know, they have those things fixed by then, okay? And if they don't have it fixed, it's your fault. If you have somebody testing for black belt, and this will be in another video, and you have to fail them, that's your fault. It's not the student's fault. Should have never been up there in the first place, right? You know what they can do. So have the expectation. Really, if I make the statement, why do your students suck? it comes down to the instructor and the instructor's expectations, because through the process of beginner classes to the next level, that student will know the instructor's expectations. And you need to take everybody on an individual basis. Those people that are naturally physically gifted, you would look at them a little harder than you would somebody with a whole lot of challenges, physical challenges. And, because martial arts is not necessarily a team sport. It's an individual sport. We want to cater to that individual, each individual, okay? And we're holding, am I grading this person different than the other person? Yeah, I am. But the forward stance needs to be shoulder width wide, double shoulder width long. Low block, 4 to 6 inches above the knee, elbow slightly bent, blah, 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 right? Everybody's doing that, but we might get there a little faster depending on your physical ability. 74 years old versus the 18-year-old. I think everybody understands that. Another thing to help with your students getting sharper, trying to create that atmosphere or culture in the school, is don't let them get by with just halfway stuff. Somebody's, not standing at attention, call them out on it. If they're supposed to be at attention. Somebody's in a forward stance, you don't have to necessarily call that one out, you call the whole class. Remember, guys, let's get your knee wherever it's supposed to be, have your feet wherever it's supposed to be. And if they don't do it, then you call them out. The belt not being tied right, for instance, call them out on it, okay? And you do it, and there's teaching techniques of doing it where you don't embarrass or shame the person, but you don't let them get by with just halfway. If they're just kind of flopping through their moves, the front kick, and don't have enough power, You don't, and by the way, you don't just keep fussing at them, okay? A good teacher will bring that energy up and create some kind of a way to get that energy going, okay? Have them stronger and faster and sharper and trying harder. But don't let them get by with just halfway. So don't let your students suck. If your students suck, it's your fault, okay? So put some systems in place where the expectations is known by the students and they can fix what they need to fix before they get in front of a testing board. By the way, something to really help with those processes is have that class, all the classes, run very militaristic. That creates a certain culture in a school. The class is snapping to attention, yelling, sir, ma'am, whatever it is. You're calling out commands, everybody's moving in unison. That really helps with the expectations and the culture of the school. And by the way, when you try to change that stuff in a school, it's like a cruise ship. It doesn't happen overnight. That's a long process, but it's a process worth having because you want to have some integrity and you want to have a good name for yourself. All right, hope this helped.